2 videos ago, I made a video about how the damage that Israel's military is causing is completely intentional and calculated. And I just got back home, and I've got my book again. There it is for you who need to see it. And I haven't finished the whole thing yet, but I'm getting really close. I've got like that much of it left. And these 2 pages, 224 and 225, just confirmed exactly what I said in that last video. And this is a bit of a longer passage, but I need you guys to stick with me here because it is really important that people know this, okay? This is page 224 moving into 225. It just got done talking about how several U.S. military higher-ups, generals, commanding officers, people who had dealt with weaponry and artillery before, who were saying how Israel's usage of artillery and munitions was extremely excessive. And it goes on to say this: the artillery pieces that were used in this assault are designed for lethal area fire over a wide radius against fortifications, armored vehicles, and dug-in troops protected by body armor and helmets. While they can launch precision-guided munitions deployed as they were against a dense neighborhood, such as Shujaiya, they were inherently imprecise. And any airstrike dropping 2,000-pound bombs in built-up areas which Shujaiya, Beit Hanun, Khan Yunis, and Rafah will necessarily and inevitably cause heavy civilian casualties and massive damage. They cannot but do so. So what they're saying there is that Israel has the full capability to make precision strikes. And I think even Motaz showed us a video on his page of exactly this, where there was one large building and there was only one level of that building taken out towards the top. So they have the ability to make those surgical strikes, as they're called. And that's what we're seeing now with what they just did in Lebanon and taking out a higher-up in the Hamas military group. You could see pictures of that building. Only one level was really taken out, with maybe one room below. Like, it was really calculated and really precise. But then you look at the rest of Gaza, and all of these buildings are completely leveled. Just absolutely, like raised it from the ground. So let me keep going here because there is more that we need to cover. It says, this is especially true in a place as overcrowded as the Gaza Strip, where people have nowhere to flee even if they are given prior notice that their homes are about to be destroyed. Beyond the horrific injuries they inflict on human flesh, air bombardment and artillery fire on this scale cause unimaginable destruction to property. In the 2014 assault, over 16,000 buildings were rendered uninhabitable, including entire neighborhoods. A total of 277 UN and government schools, 17 hospitals and clinics, and all 6 of Gaza's universities were damaged, as were over 40,000 other buildings. Perhaps 450,000 Gazans, about a quarter of the population, were forced to leave their homes, and many of them no longer had homes to go back to afterwards. These were not random occurrences, nor was this the regrettable collateral damage often lamented during a war. It was fully intentional. The weapons chosen were lethal, meant for employment on an open battlefield, not in a heavily populated urban environment. Moreover, the scale of the onslaught was entirely in keeping with Israeli military doctrine. The killing and mangling in 2014 of some 13,000 people, most of them civilians, and the destruction of the homes and property of hundreds of thousands was intentional. There's that big word, intentional. The fruit of an explicit strategy adopted by the Israeli military at least since 2006, when it used such tactics in Lebanon. The Dahiya doctrine, as it is called, is named for the southern suburb of Beirut, Dahiya, which was destroyed by Israel's Air Force using 2,000-pound bombs and other ordnance. This strategy was explained in 2008 by Major General Gadi Shamni, then head of Northern Command and thereafter Israeli Chief of Staff. This was the strategy. What happened in the Dahiya quarter, this is a direct quote, will happen in every village from which Israel is fired on. We will apply disproportionate force on it and cause great damage and destruction there. From our standpoint, these are not civilian villages, they are military bases. This is not a recommendation, this is a plan, and it has been approved. And guess who fucking approved it? The US. Genocide is the point. Every single city block and hospital and place of religious worship and school that has been leveled and razed by these bombs was completely intentional. And that is even more so shown now that we've seen the place where they took out the Hamas official. They didn't raze that whole building to the ground. They took out a level of it. A surgical strike. What they are doing to the Gazan people is an intentional ethnic cleansing. I don't know how many more times we have to say it. And yet there are still people on here who don't believe that. What is there to say anymore? This is getting ridiculous. We are seeing history literally repeat itself. This was in 2014 that this happened. This happened under Obama, by the way. Let's keep that in mind. It happened like 10 years ago. Not even 10 years ago yet. I mean, this is an exact repeat of everything. It's gonna keep happening over and over and over again. This is the umpteenth time that they have used these tactics. Genocide is the point, and do not let anyone else tell you differently.